The mic in the way? That's cool. Okay, so welcome to 5 ways to make YA readers fall in love with your story world. I promise you, I am going to fit so much good stuff into a very short time, so I do hope that you have brought your pen and your paper because you are going to want to take notes. There's just so much to cover. If you have been following me for any amount of time on Instagram, you will know that world building is one of my absolute favorite things in the whole world to talk about. So I am so excited and I have so enjoyed putting together these 5 key lessons for fantasy, sci-fi, and dystopian authors who are writing specifically for a YA audience. So I want to dive in. I just want to let you know that there is a chat box. Some people have already joined. You can put your name into it. That'd be really cool if you guys could just keep in touch during the webinar. So it feels more like a conversation. And I would love it if you could let me know where you're from, first of all, and then what kind of books that you like to write. So if you write fantasy, if you write sci-fi, dystopian, some sort of mix of all 3 of those, that'd be really cool. If you could put that into the chat box, and then we can just get to know each other a little bit better. So to give you a little bit of time to do that, I am going to just introduce myself for anybody that maybe doesn't know me yet, maybe is a new follower that we haven't met. I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. So, hi, my name is Lara, and the things that you should know about me are that I am a fantasy and sci-fi addict. If a book's description has the words magic, mythology, space, dystopia, mermaids, I am in. I love cloud cities, I love space adventures, I love magical creatures. If it is in any way fantastical, you name it, I want to read it. Also, I am a plotter, a perfectionist, and a nerd. And what I mean by that is that when it comes to writing, I get just as excited about learning about writing as actually writing. And I realized this about myself when I started to take my writing seriously because I wanted to know everything. And the more I researched, the more books on craft that I read, the more author interviews I listened to, the more excited I got about the whole process. And then when I started sharing what I'd learned with other writers, when I joined Instagram, really, well, that just took my excitement levels around the craft of writing and it just multiplied it by 10. And it's actually a huge part of why I ended up becoming an editor and a writing coach. Because honestly, I know this sounds weird, but I love helping other writers with their novels, even more than writing my own. So that is a little bit about me. I'm going to flick my camera back again so that I can just catch up with your comments. So I can see Emily's from Nottingham. She writes a mix of all 3, fantasy, sci-fi, and dystopian. That's cool. That is definitely sounds like something I'd want to read. We've got somebody from the Netherlands, Italy, Germany, Michigan. Oh my gosh, it must be early for you. Melbourne, Australia. That's perfect. I was really hoping that this time zone would let people from Australia, from Asia join. Wow, Anna's from Panama. Oh, but lives in Ireland. So that's a much better time zone. Adelaide. Okay, cool. So we've got dark fantasy and high fantasy. And we have got historical. What else? Dystopian novels with characters that like to rebel. Fantasy new adult that's darkish. Okay, cool. So this sounds awesome. It sounds like we've got a really international group here and there's a real variety of the things that you are writing about, which is just, it's going to bring so many different perspectives. You're going to be able to just put so many different experiences into your writing. You're going to see, especially in point 5, just how useful that is going to be. So I'm going to dive in now. I'm going to flick back to my slides. Did that work? No. Oh, I'm using the wrong keyboard. Okay, so So, first of all, before we start, I just want to remind you, because if you are anything like I am when it comes to watching webinars, you're going to get really easily distracted. So please I would recommend just turning off your phone, putting it out of sight at least, and then also close any tabs you have open, because if you have any kind of problems with connection, with streaming, then that just might make it a little bit faster for you. Also, if you have not yet got that pen and paper, then I really do want to just encourage you to get them if you can, if they're anywhere nearby, because you are going to want to take notes. There is going to be a lot of good stuff coming at you very fast. And finally, I just want to let you know that everything I'm about to share with you is part of a bigger world-building system that I have created specifically for YA fantasy, sci-fi, and dystopian writers. And later, I'm going to be showing you how you can unlock the whole thing. So make sure you stick around to the end, where you also have a chance to ask absolutely any questions that come to you during the class or afterwards. So let's get started. I am going to give you 3 statements, and I want you to tell me in the chat which of these scenarios best describes why you came here today. So number 1, I want to write the best, most epic book I can possibly write without getting completely lost and overwhelmed in the process. If that sounds like you, just put number 1 into the chat. Or number 2 is, I know I want to create a rich, vibrant, unique world, but I don't know where to start, what to focus on, or even when to stop. If that sounds like you, put number 2 into the chat. And then finally, number 3, you already have a great story. You have awesome characters, you have a cool world, but you want to take it to the next level. And by that, I mean that you want to write the kind of story that resonates with your readers in such a profound way that they go from, enjoying your book to being obsessed by it. And if that is what you want, don't be shy about it. There is nothing to be embarrassed. It is totally okay to be honest. We have all felt that kind of passion for a book. So of course, why wouldn't you want to share that with that excitement with other readers? So if you are number 3, or if you're a combination of any of them, then let me know in the chat. So it'd be really cool to know why you guys feel that you're here today and what you want to get out of it. So I can definitely see Meredith says 3, Melanie says 3, lots of 3s. We've got a 1, but mainly 3. Cool, that's great. Because you are definitely in the right place. In the next 40 minutes or so, I'm going to share my 5 top tips for creating a story world that fans of YA fiction, they won't be able to help themselves falling in love with. I'm going to show you how to get past the first hurdle, which is creating a world that feels real. Then we're going to take it even further and discuss how to create not just a believable world, but a world worth believing in. 3 is how to include your readers in your story world in a way that makes them dream about being part of it. 4 is how to connect your world and your characters so that readers won't be able to fall in love with one without also falling in love with the other. It's very sneaky and smart. And finally, how to wow your readers with a world that is quirky and cool and completely original. Now, before we get to the specifics, I just want to really quickly share with you how and why I discovered these lessons that I'm about to share with you, so that you do not have to spend as long as I did figuring it all out, and you can just get on with writing your kick-ass YA novel. So 12 years ago, when I was attempting my first YA fantasy, I gave myself 1 year to finish it. To some of you, that might sound like a long time. Some of you, it won't be much at all. But I set myself a year. Then I discovered the joys of world building. And I got deep into it. I had dozens of folders on every aspect, from food to politics, clothing, religion. My walls were plastered with maps and museum photos. It was based on Viking culture. So there was like pictures of forests and fjords just everywhere. 9 months later, I still had not even started actually writing my novel. Maybe you can relate to this. For years, I thought that my problem with world building was knowing when to stop, that I just enjoyed it too much. But the thing is that I did stop after those 9 months. And I did write that first draft, and I wasn't happy with it. And not in the way that no writer is ever really happy with their first draft. It didn't feel complete. I couldn't get excited about my world because it felt like there was something missing. So then I thought, despite spending 9 whole months on it, maybe I hadn't done enough world building. And this mad cycle just kept on repeating itself for years until I finally figured out what the real problem was. In fact, what the 2 problems were. 1, it wasn't that I hadn't done enough world building. It was that I had done too much of the wrong world building. I'd spent too long focusing on the wrong elements of my world. And I developed my world and my stories separately. I thought they were connected, but really what I'd done was come up with a cool plot, and I designed a cool world to tell it in. But I treated my world like a backdrop rather than another layer of storytelling. And I realized that this is what all great writers understand, either naturally or through trial and error like me. That world building, when it is done right, it can actually be a form of storytelling in its own right. And that is something that I really want to share with you today. It is why some novels demand to be made into TV or film adaptations, or even get their own theme parks, just so that readers can immerse themselves more fully into this world that they have come to love so much. So I just want you to take a minute and just imagine your readers being that excited, being that enchanted, being that passionate about your story world. Okay? Now that you have that image in your head, are you imagining it? Now that you can picture that, let's dive in and chat about how you are going to make it happen. So as promised, step 1 is how to get past the first hurdle by creating a world that feels real. Because no matter how fantastical your world, your readers need to, on some level, believe that it could be true. And a mistake that some YA writers make is assuming that because they're writing for young adults, they can dumb things down or skip steps or just put less thought into the logistics of things. And this is just not true. The first rule is to never underestimate your readers. Young adults are smart. Some of you watching this right now will actually fall into that age category, so you know how true this is. Young adults also, they're passionate. That means that they tend to discuss and analyze and dissect their favorite books way more than readers of adult literature do. So if you create an unbelievable world, they're gonna notice. So the first way to make your world feel real to a YA reader is to make sure you include little details. And these are the little clues that reassure your readers that you have really thought about every aspect of your world, even though you're only giving them a little glimpse of it. You want your readers to feel like they could literally step into the pages of your story and walk around your world, but, and this is where a lot of writers think they need to go crazy on the details, but you don't. Less is more. But make sure that you use all 5 senses. When you stick to just what your readers can see, what they can hear, it is like watching something on a screen. But when you describe how things feel, how they taste, how they smell, then your world really starts to come alive, even with just a few mentions of just a few little details sprinkled in. And the second thing I want to make sure that you don't do is over-explain. So that's kind of tied to that as well. Because like I said, you want to give your readers the sense that they are getting a glimpse of your world and not facing like a tidal wave of information. So take, for example, this one sentence from the start of These Broken Stars. It just says, hover trays weave among the guests like invisible waiters carrying drinks. Now, we don't know how these hover trays work. We don't know what they're made of. We don't know what keeps them in the air. We don't know, how they know not to bump into anyone, because none of that is important. The important thing is that from this little detail, we immediately know that this story is set in a world with advanced technology. And more than that this advanced technology, it's so common, it's so everyday that it's used for the most basic of tasks, like carrying drinks. The writers, they don't need to explain any of that, and yet just from this one little detail, we learn something right at the start of the story that is really crucial about the wider world that this story is set in. So the third way to insert details into your world without info dumping is to just have your characters interact with those details. And this is actually a really neat way to make sure that you are following points 1 and 2, because If someone touches, smells, or tastes something, especially something fantastical, it immediately becomes more real. It adds a three-dimensionality to your world. And in the same way, you don't need to over-explain or explain at all how something works if you can just show one of your characters just using it. Another way to make your world feel real is to follow one of the major rules of world building. Make sure that everything is connected. Nothing is created in a vacuum. Nothing just appears. Nothing just exists for no reason. I mean, fashion, it's connected to climate. Architecture, well, it's also connected to climate, but it's also connected to natural resources. It can be connected to technology. Social structure is connected very often to history, to economics, maybe to race. Even the way things are named or what things get named in your world can be connected to what your society in that world, what they value, what they prioritize. So if you want your world to feel like a real world, you need to make sure those connections are there. How do you do that? First of all, by asking how. How did this thing get there? How does it work? How could people believe such a thing? But remember, the how doesn't have to be fully explained to the reader as long as you know how something came to be, so that you know that it is possible. For example, if your character is wearing pearl earrings in the middle of a desert, how did she get them? Where did they come from? As far as we know, pearls need water. So in terms of connections with the rest of your world, perhaps you've set your story around an outpost in the desert that's part of a trading route. Well, that's going to have all kinds of connecting implications for what kind of people pass through, what resources are available, etc. Or there could be another way altogether of producing pearls in your world that allows them to be grown in the desert. And that would then tell us something about the kind of magic or the kind of technology that exists in your world. So these connections are super important. The next thing to ask is why. Why does something happen? Why is this thing valued? Why do people behave in a certain way? So I'll give you another example, made up again. Say all firstborn daughters are conscripted into the military in your world. Now that could be a really cool premise, but why? What is the purpose? Think about how it could connect to history, to politics, to culture. It's not enough to just have some random law that works for the plot, but it doesn't have a reason within your world. It might not be something we agree with, but it does need to make sense for that world. Now, my last piece of advice for making your world feel real is to include at least one element in your story that they would recognize and relate to. This could be something from their daily life, like going to school, even if that school is for, say, wizards or space captains. Or it could be some kind of relationship that they'd already have a good understanding of, like friendship or unrequited crush or simply family. I mean, most people will be able to relate to, for example, some kind of sibling rivalry, even if it takes place within like a family of lizard people on a volcanic planet. It might be the only thing in that whole book that they can relate to personally, but that's kind of the point. It's like an emotional anchor that will make even the most fantastical worlds feel like they could be real. So in the same way, you can include an idea or a concept that your readers could have experience of, like inequality between rich and poor, or between different races, or discrimination based on gender stereotypes. These things, they just help your reader to think, well, yeah, that's believable because I've seen that, or I've experienced that, or just because I already know all about that. So those are a few ways that you can make your world feel real for YA readers, to make it feel believable. But I want to help you kick it up a gear to create a world that YA readers will feel is worth believing in, because this is what will take them from interested to invested. And this follows on from what we were just talking about making your world relatable. In order to do this most effectively, you need to understand your audience. Now, this is always true, but it is especially important for YA fiction because it's a very specific segment of readers that you're trying to reach, right? And the thing with really successful YA fiction, the thing that makes it so powerful and so compelling, is that it is very much grounded in the reader's experiences and their perspectives. What is, a really pretty complicated time of life. If you ask Harry Potter fans, who are now mostly grown up, what they loved about the Harry Potter books, I think this emphasizes this really well, because they don't usually start off by saying, the magic's really cool. They say things like, it showed me that girls can be strong and smart and brave too. Or it's cool to be odd and weird and loony. Or deeper stuff like it gave them the courage to stand up to their friends. I mean, it deals with some really dark topics like depression and death and loss. And the truth is that a lot of readers found that, not only was it an escape for them, sure, it's fun and it's colorful and it's lovely, but it helped so many to give shape to their fears and to their sadness and to help them find strength and hope. And you can do that too. But first, you need to know 3 main things about your readers. You need to know what interests them, what they struggle with, and how they see the world. If you can reflect the things that they care about that are important to them, while, through the more fantastical elements of your world, creating an escape from the difficult parts of their life, or at least giving them hope that there is something better out there, then your readers, they're going to want to believe in your world. For example, if your readers struggle with things like fitting in, whether that's fitting in with their families or fitting in with their social groups, maybe they just feel different in some way and it makes them feel isolated or angry or ashamed. If they can read about a fantasy world where everybody in this world, for example, has special powers, except the main character, or the main character does have a power, but it's not the kind that's, say, approved of by the rest of their society, maybe. It's not hard to see how that reader could potentially feel like they relate to those feelings of exclusion or of self-doubt or a lack of self-worth. When young readers read a book that makes them feel understood, that makes them feel seen, that helps them to think about their experiences in a different way, and in a way makes sense of their own world and their place in it, those are the books that are going to take up a very special place in their soul. And here's the other thing you need to know about writing YA fiction. You need to follow the passion, because the thing that sets YA apart from a lot of adult fiction, it's the intensity of emotion, right? And I'm not just talking about love. I'm not talking about romance. I'm talking about everything. Anger, hurt, pride, joy, guilt, sadness. They may be caused by different things, but that does in no way diminish the strength that your readers feel them with. So if you want to build a world that really connects with YA readers, don't be afraid to tackle big issues, difficult issues. While adult fiction often dances around these issues, sort of like, being all subtle, YA says, pay attention. This is important and it's real. It's gritty, it's necessary, it's heartbreaking, it's terrifying, it's exciting, it's beautiful. Maybe it is all of those things all at once. So don't be afraid to create flawed worlds, because readers expect that YA books are going to be full of life and death, love and heartbreak, magic and wonder, but injustice and rebellion, fear and courage, pain and hope, essentially all the big feels. It is the kind of passion that leads to fandoms. It is the kind of passion that explains why readers get tattoos of their favorite books. So this passion should be built into your world, not just into your plot, right from the start. But this is where a lot of YA writers, they get it wrong. They start their world building with the cool surface stuff, like the look of the world, or the magic system, or the clothes people wear, instead of what really matters to the story, the things that YA readers will feel passionately about. And that's why identifying the heart of your story, it's actually step 1 of that world building system that I mentioned at the beginning. I call it inside out world building because it starts with what your readers really care about. And then it allows you to work your way outwards to the cool sparkly stuff. So how do you find the heart of your story and know where to start? Well, I'm going to just show you a simplified version of the technique that I use in Inside Out world building. And what you can do is think about all the things that are important to your readers, basically the answers to the questions we just asked. What interests them? What do they struggle with? How do they see the world? And then think about all the issues or themes that you would enjoy writing about and exploring through your world. And it's in that sweet spot between the story that your audience needs to hear and the story that you want to tell. That is the heart of your YA novel. When you first take the time to understand your audience as well as understanding the kind of story you want to tell, you can combine your passion with your reader's passion to build a world that is infused with so much emotion that it is impossible not to fall in love with. And you do that by building a world that is designed right from the start to give you every opportunity to fully explore your core themes. For example, if you have decided that the theme at the heart of your story is family, you could start your world building with the social structure of the world, and then you can make sure that that really clearly reflects the concept of family. That could be magical bloodlines, it could be royal houses, depending on the kind of book you're writing, it could be clans, or it could simply be the group that you are assigned to. Or I'll give you another example. If the heart of your story is, say, rooted in identity or individuality, you could first focus your world building on races or cultural groups, thinking about what their group identities could look like, as well as a way of contrasting them with individual identities. Or you could go in a completely different direction and start with religion or worldviews and what impact the beliefs of the people in your world could have on how people see themselves in that world. Really like making those connections between identity, individuality, how people see themselves, how they feel about themselves. When you take themes that are already important to your readers and you weave them into your world, you weave them into the fabric of your world right from the start, you make it clear that those themes, they're going to be important to the story. And you signal to your readers that this story, it's for them. If you think you already know what the heart of your world is, I would love to hear. So let me know in the comments. Tell me, if you know the themes that you want to be like right at the core of your story world, then just type it in now. I think that would be really cool to share. Or if this is something that you've never really thought about, then let me know that too. Because remember, there will be a chance for me to answer your questions at the end. So it would be really good to know if there is anything that you want me to explain a bit more or just go into more detail on. So there is a little bit of a delay, so I haven't seen any answers come in yet, but I am going to keep checking the chat and I can always come back to it at the end. Somebody has said that their theme at the heart of their novel is redemption. That's awesome. Oh my gosh, I can already just see so many ways that you could weave that into your world and make just a really, really cool story from that. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so let's get back to the slides, because now that we have talked about how to create a believable world and how to create a world worth believing in, tip 3 is about helping YA readers find it easy to envision themselves in your world. And remember, and I can't say this enough, this is a passionate audience you're writing for. They have a very strong sense of right and wrong. So give them a fight they want to be on the right side of. Appeal to the rebel and the activist. And this can be any kind of fight, as long as your readers can relate to it. So identify the pressures or injustices YA readers typically face, and then reflect them in your world. It could be the fight against pressure to look a certain way, like in Scott Westerfeld's Uglies. It could be the struggle to have their voice heard, like in Pierce Brown's Red Rising. It could even be a feeling of vulnerability or anxiety, like Tohiro Mafi's Shatter Me series. If your characters live in a world where they're fighting against a version of the same injustices or the same obstacles as your readers are going to want to be a part of it, especially if they can be on the winning side. So the second thing you can do to include your readers in your world is to create opportunities for diversity. Be truly representative, because like a homogenous world where everybody just looks and talks and thinks and acts the same, it's going to be a boring world. But also it's going to alienate a lot of your readers who just don't see a place for themselves in that world. But if you increase the diversity of your world, you also increase the chances of all your readers seeing something of themselves reflected back. And this is so important for YA readers who are often, grappling with, as we said, issues of like identity or self-worth. Which is why this third technique is so popular with YA readers and with YA authors. If it makes sense for your story, I would say try creating identities that can be connected to your world. So think the sorting hat in Harry Potter, or the factions in Divergent, or even the colors in Red Rising. This is one of the most fun ways to invite your readers into your world, and also the easiest way for them to imagine their place in it. So in terms of world building, focus on cultures, focus on groups, and then spend a bit of extra time thinking about the particular values of those cultures, of those groups, and what characteristics they hold in high regard. So for example, we all know Gryffindors value courage. Ravenclaws, they're all about knowledge. In diversity, abnegation, they're all about selflessness. Whereas Candor, they value honesty, truth. In Red Rising, it's a bit different. It's based more on abilities, what people are good at, like science or the arts or warfare or manual labor even. Now, I bet that most of you watching are YA fans yourself. And I also bet that you know which groups from YA fiction you belong to. So I think this could prove my point and also be kind of fun. So if you let me know in this chat, if you know what Harry Potter house you belong to, or what Divergent factor you would be part of. I'm definitely Hufflepuff and Amity. I'm just like everybody just chill out. Just be nice to each other. Just everybody get along. So if you know which one you'd belong to, or feel free to include an identity group from another book that I haven't mentioned. If I haven't come up with something that you have felt a connection with, then that would be awesome if you could include that. And then at the end, we can look back and then we can see maybe if there's a pattern to what groups YA fantasy and sci-fi authors gravitate to, or if we're just a totally mixed bunch. So I've got a fellow Hufflepuff. Gryffindor, erudite and Ravenclaw. Yeah, I can see why those would go together pretty well. Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff. Okay, a bunch of Ravenclaws, mainly a mix of Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff. That's a good mix. Don't be mad, but I swear I'm a Griffin puff. Why would I be mad? That sounds awesome. Slytherin, good for you. The sorting hat actually did put me into Slytherin the first time, but it just never felt right. I don't know what happened there. Someone says they think they're divergent. Yeah, cool. I bet that probably is most of us. Yeah, awesome. Cool. So that is just what I'm saying. Like, we all kind of take enjoyment from being able to put ourselves into these groups. So if you can create, if it's right for your world, if you could create something for your readers, you can see how fun that could be for them. So I'm going to get onto the next one because we've still got a bunch to get through. We're on number 4 of my 5 ways to make YA readers fall in love with your story world. And number 4 is about fusing your world and your characters so that they both make each other stronger. Because some readers, they fall in love with worlds. Some fall in love with characters. This way, you can make sure that you actually cater for both groups. Now, most writers know how to do this one way round. Most writers know that characters should be a product of their world. And if you haven't heard that term before, it just basically means that your characters, their thoughts, their beliefs, their attitudes, sometimes even their physical attributes, they should all be influenced by the world that they live in. But what I want to share with you today is something that not a lot of writers know about, and that is how to flip this around during world building and actually shape your world in a way that allows you to tell your characters' stories in the best way. Now, this is actually another cornerstone of my Inside Out world building system. So I'm going to just share a little bit of it with you right now. If you know anything about the kind of people that your main characters are, you can ask yourself, what kind of world could have made them the way that they are? It's the opposite, like I said, of how most writers think about characters and worlds. So instead of thinking, how has their world influenced them, you can first decide on what kind of character your readers want to read about and you want to write about. And then think about what kind of world their existence would be possible in. So for example, if you knew that you wanted to write a super resourceful, kick-ass heroine like Katniss Everdeen, but you also kind of feel like you want to write this beautiful, comfortable world full of luxuries where people fight with wits and words instead of bows and arrows, basically the capital, she wouldn't make sense in that world. But introduce the idea of districts outside the capital, where life's harsh, people are scared and desperate and hungry. Well, then you have the perfect world to explore her story. So that's one way to shape your world, by starting with characters. The alternative is to ask, in what ways might they not fit in with the world around them? And that could, depending on your story, be even more interesting. You can deliberately create a world in which your character sticks out like a sore thumb, if that is true to the heart of your story, to those themes that we talked about earlier. So if, for example, the heart of your story has something to do with themes of, like we said, identity, and I think somebody said in the chat that that was one of their themes, or if your themes are something like isolation or judgment even, or belonging, do you see how immediately when you create a world in which your characters don't fit in, you give yourself so many opportunities to explore those kinds of themes: identity, isolation, judgment, what was the other one? Belonging. The third question you can ask is, what kind of world would present the kind of challenges that your characters need to face in order to grow and achieve their goals? So I'll give you another made-up example. Imagine that your main character is a naive, sheltered emperor's daughter who needs to somehow find the strength and the skills to defeat the leader of an uprising who killed her father and dethroned her. Now, your world, it's going to need to include possibilities for the plot. You need these possibilities for her to actually gain this strength and this skill. And she probably won't find them as a prisoner in, a comfy palace. So her story means that she needs access to a place where cunning and street smarts are just a way of life, where survival is a skill that people learn from an early age. And if you create a world like that, you're going to give that character, that emperor's daughter, you're going to give her plenty of opportunities to learn and to change in the ways that she needs to. And it will make a really good story. So that brings us to my final tip for creating a world that your YA readers will fall in love with, and that is how to wow them with originality. Because I get writers asking me all the time, how do I create a unique new world? And what I tell them is, ultimately, the uniqueness of your world, it comes from you. So you need to infuse your world with your personality. So yes, absolutely, learn from other writers. It is totally fine to say, I love what they did there. I love how they made me feel. I love how it stayed with me after I finished reading. But then break it down. Try to figure out why you loved it so much, so that you can think about what elements you want to include in your world and how you can put your own spin on them. But please, don't waste time trying to copy those other writers, and don't waste energy negatively comparing yourself with them. I hear a lot of writers say things like, I could never create a world like such and such author. And I always say to them that no, they can't. Just like those authors, they can't tap into your unique brand of creativity and create a world as exciting or beautiful or imaginative as you. There is no one else like you. So embrace your uniqueness. Let your personality shine through. I heard the best tip from Laini Taylor, the author of the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series and the Strange the Dreamer books, obviously. She said to make sure that you capture your own sense of wonder, which I just think is so perfect. So I'm actually going to share the full quote with you. She said, I found that when I get deep into writing a book, the things about it that at first seemed imaginative and fascinating to me don't anymore. The novelty wears off and it's hard to recapture my own sense of wonder. So I started making a list early on that I could refer to as kind of proof that they did once seem cool and hopefully still will to readers who are coming to the story fresh. I love this idea. So my final piece of advice to you today is to write your own list of things that you would like to read about. Anything that would make you want to visit or live in your world even. If you think talking goats are cool, I have goats on my screensaver, add them to the list. If you think that pink snow is cool, then add that to the list. If you love the idea of living underwater, add that to the list. Remember, it is your world, and the most important thing about your world is that you love it first. You are going to be spending a lot of time in it, so you need to pack it full of things that delight you. Because if you don't get excited by it, if you don't get excited by your world, if you don't love it, then no one else will. And that was 5 ways to guarantee that YA readers will fall in love with your story world. And breathe. I tried to pack in as much as humanly possible into this time, so I hope that it all made sense and that you were able to take good notes. But like I said, if you have any questions, and I'm going to read through the comments now in case you've sent in any already, but if you have any questions, please type them into the comments box and I will get to as many as I can in that Q&A session. While you're typing, I'm just going to recap the highlights of those 5 points. You just learned, first of all, how to use details and relatable aspects to create a world that feels believable. But more than that, we talked about how to find the heart of your story and why that is so, so important for a YA novel. And why building your world from the inside out allows you to build a world that YA readers will want to believe in. So you're appealing to their heads and their hearts. You also learned how to make your readers feel like part of your world by making them feel like they have a place in it so that they care about what happens in it. I also showed you how you can use world building as more than just a backdrop for your plot, but as a way to actually explore and intensify your characters' stories. So I know that you tuned in today because you are passionate about telling imaginative, fantastical stories that transport readers to whole new worlds, your worlds, because you want to be able to share stories that connect with your readers on such a profound level that they see themselves reflected back, that they dream of being part of this world, because you want to write books that readers, they don't just enjoy, but they love, like I said, to an obsessive level. I so badly want you to realize your dreams. I want you to get your books out into the world so that you can fill readers' heads and their hearts with your stories. So it is really important to me that you leave this webinar today knowing, and I mean really believing, that you can do all this, okay? Because I need you to know that. But here's the other thing you need to know. The books that we love, the books that transport us to fantastical worlds, the ones that we want our books to join in the hearts of readers, we only ever get to see the final result. And that's super important to remember. And again, it is why you cannot compare yourself to your favorite authors, because you cannot reverse engineer a novel. When you look at a finished piece of work, it is impossible to see the full process that led to it. So all you have to go on is this perfectly presented world that just fits beautifully with the story being told, because you're looking at it from the outside. And when you look at a novel from the outside in, all you're ever going to see is a finished world full of rich, magical, quirky details. It seems effortless. Like it must have been so easy for the writer, right? And as a writer yourself, reading that, it can be super disheartening. But this is actually a great thing for you as an author, because your readers, they're only ever going to get to see your books from the outside. So that is the way that they will view your world. Unfortunately, looking at your own novel from the outside in is not an option. So why would you try to start with those rich, magical, beautiful, quirky surface details, which are effectively the tip of the iceberg, and then try to dive down and figure out the how, and then the why? eventually getting to what is, like we said, the most important part, which is the heart of your story. But I see writers do this all the time, and I get why. Like I said, if you're trying to recreate the success of popular YA fantasy or sci-fi novels, it is natural to look at the only part that you can actually see and then try to figure out their secrets, to try to follow their example. But writers I've worked with, they say that this typical approach, it often leaves them feeling like just overwhelmed, like it's all too much, like it's beyond their skill level. These are just a few of the messages that I got when I asked my followers on Instagram to let me know how world building made them feel. And honestly, there were dozens more, just saying almost the exact same things. I mean, look at this, the one at the top: overwhelmed, confused, defeated. This other one: love it in theory, execution is stressful. Yeah, I get that. And then you've got overwhelming, overwhelming, overwhelmed. That word came up a lot. And then not very confident at all. Does that sound familiar? If you feel the same, I want to tell you what I told them. You're not alone. So many writers feel like this, but you don't have to feel this way. All you need is a simplified approach to world building that is tailored to your world, that helps you to keep your focus on the right things, to ignore the wrong things, and to just take what you already know and then build on it. That is the clarity that comes from building from the inside out. So if you ever feel unsure of where to start, or if you get overwhelmed by all the possibilities, or you get so completely lost in the process that you don't know when to stop, like me, I have really, really good news, and you are the first to hear about this. That world building system that I told you about, inside out world building, I created it for writers like you. I turned it into an online course for writers writing fantastical or futuristic fiction, especially for young adults. It is a simple system that takes all of the stress, the confusion, the overwhelm out of world building, and it leaves you with just the fun parts. So I am so excited to invite you to join me in Rock Your World, Inside Out World Building for YA authors. My biggest, newest, most exciting project for writers. It is an online course that you can complete in your own time, at your own pace, wherever you feel most inspired, and best of all, you can adapt it to suit whatever book you're writing right now, and then any other books you go on to write in the future. I really don't want you to waste any time or energy wondering or worrying, where should I start? Am I doing it the right way? Have I done enough? Have I done too much? Have I forgotten something crucial? Is this right for my story? Am I creating a world worth believing in? It's exhausting. Just go ahead and just cross out all of those worries, all of those doubts. Forget about long world building lists of what you should do and what you must do. Every story is different. And that is why in this course, what I do is I help you to understand what is important to you and to your story. And then I give you the tools and the advice and the encouragement to be able to focus on that and to realize your vision for your novel. So building your world from the inside out, it means starting with the elements that are most important to your plot, to your characters, and crucially, like we said, to your themes, which I will teach you how to identify. It's also about allowing yourself to focus your time and your energy and your imagination on what excites you, and giving yourself permission to just, breeze past the parts that don't. And most importantly, with this inside out system, you will never have to worry that you are forgetting something crucial, because I give you everything you need. This is not a hazy one-size-fits-all approach that just, throws out more questions than it answers. This is world building specifically for young adult fiction. Every step of this system, it's designed to be tailored to you, to your story, to your readers, to help you stay focused and just avoid feeling overwhelmed. It does not matter if you are in the ideas phase of your story, if you're currently skimming the surface of your world, or if you are already deep into world building. In this course, you get 8 modules, video lessons, in which I will talk you through how to approach all the major world building topics in a way and in an order that makes sense for your story and your audience. Along with the video lessons, I've also created beautiful worksheets to help you stay on the right track and super easy reference guides for the more complex topics like politics and religion, to save you valuable research time. And to help you feel confident that you've not forgotten anything, I have put together the ultimate book of world building questions with hundreds of prompts to get you thinking about your world in practical ways, but also creative and, really fun ways. But remember, this course, it is all about simplifying. So even though this book has every possible question you could ever need to build a world, you will absolutely not be answering all of them. Once you follow my inside out approach, it will be very clear to you which questions you do need to focus on and then which you can just ignore. So this course starts with a step-by-step tutorial with worksheets on how to create a world-building strategy that's tailored to your story in a way that makes sense for you and your readers, and it gives you the confidence to know that you are focusing on the right things at the right time. Then we get into all the major world-building topics. Module 1 is the natural world, and a big part of this is understanding how landscape and climate can help you create the right mood for your story. We talk about fantastical animals, we talk about how natural resources have just all these knock-on effects to pretty much everything else. And then we move to the constructed world, or it won't necessarily be this order. Like I said in the tutorial at the start, it will tell you exactly which modules you need to focus on and in what order. But the constructed world, it covers things like technology, communication, transportation. What I really enjoy is using architecture to paint really revealing pictures of societies, things like what city layouts can tell your readers about things like social structure. Really clever stuff. And then module 3 is about people, and I will show you how to create new races, new species, new cultural groups, crucially with their own unique, intriguing, sensitive identities. And then society. This covers everything: history, religion, education, healthcare, celebrations, traditions. But it's all simplified for you, and it's just all to help you make sure that you are surrounding your world with a real sense of depth and authenticity to make it feel real. Now, module 5, I know, is something that a lot of writers have told me makes them nervous. They just get a little bit intimidated by. But you absolutely don't need to, because I help you break down different styles of government to try to figure out what might be right for your story and if you even need it. Your legal system, crime and punishment, foreign relations. All of these really rich potential sources of conflict for your plot, I will help you figure out how to mine. And then daily life, which is, I think, one of the most fun modules. We're going to discuss food, fashion, sports, entertainment, work and free time, and crucially, I am going to be sharing how you can introduce all of this cool, fun stuff without overwhelming your readers with info dumps, the dreaded info dumps. And of course, we have a module on magic and the supernatural. We had to. And I will help you decide what kind of magic system helps you tell your story best. I will help you make your supernatural elements both original and believable. And obviously, with all of this stuff thrown in, I will help you to figure out how to avoid plot holes. So those are the core course modules, and that's not even including the bonuses, some of which I haven't even mentioned yet, and I will get to them because they're really good. But I'm pretty sure that right now you are wondering, so what's the investment? Well, you can enroll in this course right now for just $56 by splitting your payments across 5 months. So that's just $56 now and then 4 monthly payments to follow. Or you can pay in full and save $33. But you should know this is the absolute lowest this course will ever be sold for. Just next month, the price is going up by $100. That means you save almost 30% by registering early. Right now, the pay in full price is $247. Next month, that's going up to $347. And the only reason that the price is lower now is because this is a special pre-sale price. And that means that the course will open on August 14th. That's really important. You can register right now, you can be enrolled, but the modules will only be available from August 14th. So because of that short delay between registering and getting access to the course, I'm giving you a special pre-sale discounted price. If you scroll down on this page, underneath the screen, just scroll down, you will see two options to enroll and get access to the whole course on August 14th for just $56 a month for 5 months, as opposed to $78 a month at the full price, or a one-time payment of $247, which will go up to $347 once the course is open. Like I said, this is the lowest you will ever be able to buy this course for. If you click to buy before the timer below the screen runs out, it's a countdown timer, you'll save $100 on the full price of this course. Now, about those bonuses. Because I get so many questions about world building versus info dumping, I have included an extra lesson specifically on how to weave vital details of your world into your novel in a way that does not overload your readers with information. You'll also get that ultimate book of world building questions that I mentioned earlier, and alongside that, you'll also get a document that you can download that has already been pre-formatted, pre-organized into what is essentially a blank world building Bible, ready for you to fill in and keep track of your world. You will also be invited to join our course community Facebook group, where you can hang out with other students, and they're also going to be building YA-focused worlds. So you guys can share insights with each other, you can ask each other questions, and you can also ask me, because I'll also be in the group. I'll be there to help you, to encourage you, and also to give you feedback if you want. There are no other online courses teaching this method. I couldn't even find, when I was looking, any that teach world building specifically for young adult fiction. That's why I came up with this system. However, if you were to take an in-person class on general world building, it can cost anywhere from $700 to $2,500. And as I said at the beginning, I do coaching work with authors, but if you were to hire me as your coach to get this same content just on a per hour basis, it would work out at well over $1,000. But unlike either of those methods, you can complete this course, this online course, in your own time, at your own pace. You become part of the Rock Your World community of YA authors for added support and encouragement when you need it. And you can reuse the content for every book that you write. And every time, you're going to end up with a new, unique world. And I saw somebody ask this in the questions already, so I can tell this is going to be important to you. You get lifetime access. That means it never expires. It also means that when new lessons are added or extra bonuses are added, you get them automatically, free of charge. And when the price goes up, which it will because of all the extras that I'm going to be adding over time, you won't pay a penny more. So if you're ready to stop wasting valuable writing time on world building that won't actually add anything to your story, if you want to stop feeling overwhelmed and instead just be able to embrace the fun of creating a world that you know that YA readers are going to love, just click one of the buttons below. You can choose between either the monthly plan or the pay in full option. With both, you get the special limited pre-sale discount, but it's up to you whether you want to split your payments monthly or get a further $33 discount by paying in full. Once you click whatever button you choose, you'll be taken to this checkout page. And all you have to do is type in your details, choose your method of payment. Depending on what country you're in, sales tax might be added, but just click enroll in the course, and then you'll get a confirmation message that you have been enrolled. Then, on August 14th, the course will open and you will get access to all the modules, including your personal strategy plan, all the video lessons, the bonus lesson, the worksheets, reference guides, the ultimate book of world building questions, your pre-formatted organizer, and access to our exclusive course members Facebook group. So if you already know that you want to create a world that YA readers will love, one that will fit seamlessly into your story in a way that actually strengthens your plot and your characters, make sure that you click on the button, on one of the buttons below, before this special offer expires and the price for Rock Your World, it goes up by $100. Now, I know that you will almost certainly have some questions, so I am going to switch my camera back again so that we can chat. And if there is anything you want to know, whether it's about the class that I just taught or whether it's about the Rock Your World course, feel free to type your questions into the chat now, and I will try and flick my camera back. Okay, so we just covered a lot, I know, in a really short time. So I'm going to have a drink first of all. I'm losing my voice, and I'm going to have a read back through your comments, because I can see that a lot came in while I was talking that I didn't manage to catch. So I am going to read back through them now. Oh, I've already got someone saying, yay, I'm ready. I guess they're in for the course. That is so exciting. I can't wait to welcome you into our community and start sharing all the awesome stuff that I have created inside this course. It's honestly the thing I am most proud of creating in my whole life. And I'm so excited about it. I had so much fun with it, and I cannot wait to show it to you. Okay, so somebody else says, I've been writing notes like crazy. Somebody wrote 3.5 pages in words with notes. That is impressive. That is fast typing. Okay, I'm getting to the point where we're talking about what YA groups you're in. We've got, yep, so somebody's the same as me, Hufflepuff and Amity, Ravenclaw, Gryffindor. Yep, so we've got a lot of those, which is so fun. Let's see. Oh, okay. This is the themes that you guys have at the heart of your story. So somebody else has said their themes are of connection and control. That is so interesting. Oh my gosh. I have to stop myself, because as soon as I hear these things, my mind starts whirring and I start thinking about, okay, now what elements of your world could we use to reflect that theme? How could we use it to give shape to it, to make that kind of clear, to kind of bring that metaphor to life for your readers? And like I said, that is the first lesson in my Inside Out world building course, the Rock Your World course. So I'm kind of in that mindset. So as soon as you say things like that, I just start thinking about all the cool things that could end up being. Somebody says, is it bad that I just write? I really don't give these things any thought, and I still enjoy myself with my writing. Absolutely. Of course. You know, some people world build just for the joy of world building. So if they take 9 months, if they take a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever, and if they never get to the point where they actually write their book, that's totally fine, because that wasn't really the point for them. The point is that they enjoy the process of world building. And I love that. So yeah, if that's the case, just feel free to just follow whatever you feel that you want to explore in whatever order. But if you do have an end goal, if you know that you are writing for a particular audience, if you know that you want to publish a book, then yes, to an extent, it's great to be able to just follow what you're passionate about. And that following your instinct is definitely a big part of my course. But I also know the dangers of just getting lost. There are just so many paths you can follow in world building. Like I said, just everything connects to everything else in so many different ways. And it is so easy to get overwhelmed, to get lost, to lose sight of the story that you are writing and the readers who you are writing for. So this course is all about taking the things that you enjoy. It's taking the things that you are passionate about, that is fun for you to write about and to explore, but then connecting it, sort of really anchoring it to those themes, those core, that heart of your story, so that you never get lost, so that you never really stray too far from the path, so that you do actually end up at the end having this finished book, this complete world that fits with this awesome story, that these characters really feel like they could live inside, that readers want to live inside. So that is what this course is all about, is to help you, if that is your end goal, to really focus on that and just kind of ignore the stuff that are going to distract you and is going to detract you from achieving that goal. So that's a great question. Let me scroll back down just to see if any more questions have come in. It's very difficult to scroll on this. Let's see. It's going to take me a little while. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so that was the question. How long do you have access to the course once you've paid and it's been released? Lifetime. Like I said, you are never going to lose access to the course. So that is why you can use it for the book that you are writing right now. But then, if in 6 months, if in a year, 2 years, you're writing another book and you want to go back to that system, you want to go back to all those questions, but in a different way, like I said, because you'll have a different story. So the process right at the beginning of the course, it will show you a different path that you need to go down. So if you have a different story, if you have different themes that form the heart of your story, you're going to end up focusing on different aspects of world building, but you're still going to have access to all the modules. You're still going to have access to all the questions, all the prompts to get you thinking about it. And like I said, I'm going to keep adding stuff to this course. I've already got so many ideas about lessons that I want to add that I just didn't have time. I would just never release it if I just waited until I had everything that I wanted to put into it. And I really want you to have this course as soon as possible. So over time, I'm going to be adding in bonus lessons. I'm going to be adding in more downloads, more reference guides to, like I said, help with cutting down on research time. But you won't have to pay for any of it. The price, because of all those added extras, is going to go up in the future, but not for you. So you are going to have this all-time low price and get access to everything else that comes with it and never have to pay a penny more. So let me go back to the questions. So somebody has said that regarding step 3, I have a question. How many races are too many? I want it to be easy for readers to keep up and also identify themselves with my characters and my world and my story. But if I create too much, I'm afraid I will bore them and my world won't be appealing or they won't relate at all. That is a really good question. And actually, this applies to so many different aspects of world building. I did an Instagram live a little while ago when we were talking about magic systems. And I talked about this then because I think there is this temptation to try to throw in as many cool ideas that you have. And the same can be for races. If you are trying to appeal to just so many people, you might just try to make your world so diverse that it actually just becomes complicated and you lose a sense of identity among those groups. But also what I want to be really clear about is when I say diversity in these groups and when I say that creating groups and races and species even that your readers feel like they can relate to, it's not necessarily about the color of their skin or what they look like or how many limbs they have or whatever identifying sort of outward feature. That diversity can also apply to how people think about how they feel about certain things. So if you have a community of people who are very, let's say a group of people that really prize rationality and science and logic, if you can also show that yes, that might be the overriding kind of general approach or philosophy within that group, but every group has people who don't fit in. Every group have people who are different or who interpret things differently. So if you can show that, a lot of people are very rational, are very logical thinkers, but you also have people who are artists, you also have people who are rebels. Just by including people who are a little bit different and in that way including diversity, that's what I mean by opening it up so that your readers feel like they could belong in this world, like they could have a place in this world, that there is that room to be different. And like I said, it also helps you to make your world more believable. because that is how societies operate. That is like no one group of people. People, I think writers often, not often, but sometimes fall into the trap of creating these homogenous groups and saying, okay, so this group is, like I said, all rational. Now, these groups are just all peace lovers. And it's very rare that people actually work out that way. So if you want to make your world feel believable, then it's really good to include things that are different. So you don't need lots and lots of different races to answer your question. You can just have a few key ones with very strong identities, but then within those groups show how there might be people who disagree or think differently or behave differently. Okay, so let's see. I've got some more questions coming in. Let's see. So, what is your advice for building a world that is grounded in our current reality? How detailed does the explanation of how we got there have to be? So, for example, they've said 50-ish years in the future. It's very science focused, and I tend to get lost in the details of how science and tech would have evolved. It's a really great question. And I think it helps sometimes to just trace it back, if possible, to say one event. Maybe there was one invention that just changed everything. I mean, just think about how much the internet has changed life for us. Think about, just even 30, 40 years ago, when most people did not have access to the internet, how we communicated, how that was different, how we bought things, how we spread information, how we got our news. Things like social media not existing, just from that one invention. Or it could have been maybe an event in your world. So maybe there was a war, or maybe a particular political party took power and they had very specific ideologies. Maybe there was a cataclysmic weather event, and as a result of that, something needed to be invented in order to deal with it, in order to cope with it, in order to live life after that event. If you can trace something back to to keep things simple, to one thing like that, and then just follow the dominoes and go, okay, so what would that mean for how people live their life? What would that mean for the kind of technology that would be prioritized? Where would the money be funneled into in science? Like, what would they have seen as being the most important thing to them? And then just sort of seeing about what that could have led to. Does that help? If you guys could let me know in the comments, if you have any follow-up questions, if you want me to clarify anything, then yeah, let me know. I've just seen a great question from Lo saying, so about those themes that form the heart of your story, I feel like I have more than one theme. Should I just choose one to focus on? No, absolutely. Having more than one theme is very common and can work really well. And it can stop your story from feeling like a bit preachy, maybe, if you're just so focused on one thing. I mean, it's totally fine if there is this one core idea, because then there's lots of different ways you can explore it. But absolutely having, 2 or 3, maybe 4, but I'd say 3 is actually quite a good number, and that is what I say in the first module. Because then you can start being really creative and actually coming up with, when you look at things like race, or when you look at politics, or even when you look at things like weather or geography, and you're trying to, like I said, create a particular mood in your story. When you combine 2 themes, then it forces you to be really creative. And yes, you can absolutely say the geography and the weather are going to be reflecting this one particular theme, and then the political system is going to be reflecting this other theme. Or you can actually combine them in really creative ways. So that's definitely something that I think would be really fun to explore. And like I said, if you join the course and then you join the Facebook group, if you're not sure about how you can merge those themes, if you have some ideas of the direction you want to go in, but you're not sure it's really working out, then you can always share that in the group. You can get input from the other writers, and I'll be able to give you input as well, and I'll be able to give you some advice. So that's a great question, and you can absolutely do that. Let me see, was there other questions? Because I know that this is it's running a little bit long, but as long as you guys are happy to sit here and to chat with me and to stay tuned in, then I'm happy to talk. But I would say if you have any questions specifically about the course itself, then please let me know, because I would love to be able to answer them for you right here and right now, because I'm so excited about it. And I really, like I said, I want to welcome you into it. I want to start sharing it with you. I want to hear about your worlds. So let me know. Let me see. Okay, so the person who asked the grounded in reality question says that answer helped, so that's great. It made my brain go, because I realized I already have that event. Perfect. Yeah, that is what I am here to help you to, just like I said, just to simplify and clarify and just focus on the right things at the right time in the right way. And then those dominoes will just fall into place and you'll just have these aha moments and things will just click. That has been what I have found. So let me see. Okay, so this is a really important question, and I really wanted to include this in the lesson, but there was just so much else that I also wanted to say. So I'm really glad that somebody asked this. So it's an anonymous question, but it says, where is it? Oh, how do I add representation and racial diversity to my book without resorting to outdated and subtly racist, they've said, barf, descriptions, but being very clear about not describing a default white character? This is especially difficult coming from Italy because most of the population is white, especially in peripheral areas. Yes, and like I said, this is actually going to be one of the bonus lessons that I am going to absolutely add in the future, because it is so important. But I want to make sure that I do it really in the right way, and maybe involve other writers of color, get their perspective, because I think that is really key. I think that it is great to write diverse worlds, and I think that fantasy and sci-fi really gives you that opportunity to just change the way that society is made up. You can flip it on its head, you can mix it up, and you can really come up with something that truly represents all readers. But we do have internal biases, all of us, and that's just a fact. Because like you said, of the way where you've maybe grown up and what you have been exposed to and what you know about. You can't be expected to know everything about a particular group if you're not a part of that, if you have not grown up in that group, if you've not had to face the challenges that that group maybe faces. So it's great to try and include those, but yes, it's very important to make sure that you do it in an educated way, so you find out as much about that culture as you possibly can, and in a sensitive way. So speak to people who are part of that group. Ask them questions. Find out about the challenges that they face. Find out about the experiences that they've had that you can maybe include in your story. And then always never leave it at that. Always bat it back to them. Always go, this is what I was thinking. How do you feel about this? Is this okay? Is this true? Is this representative? Include, beta readers. Get specific sensitivity readers who are people who belong to these groups or groups that have inspired the groups that you are writing, and make sure you get their feedback and listen to it. If they say something to you that says that's offensive or that's uncomfortable or I didn't enjoy reading that part or that made me feel something negative, never disregard that. You are asking them for a reason. So when they tell you things like that, listen and then apply it. So that's really important. So I'm really glad that you asked that. And I really hope that if you do include diverse races particularly, then you do start off at least by following those tips. Okay, so somebody else has said, is this webinar going to be available to watch again? It's very helpful. Great. Yes, I know. We covered so much so fast. So I totally understand if you want to go back and watch it again, or maybe if you came in late and you missed some of it. Yes, it is going to be available. I'm going to send you an email after this with the link to the replay. But that countdown timer that's at the bottom of the screen, that countdown timer tells you how long you have to buy the course at that special discounted lowest ever rate. But that countdown is also for how long you have to watch the replay. So please don't wait too long, because when that countdown reaches 0, you're not going to be able to watch the replay anymore, and you will not be able to buy the course until the next time I open it for enrollment. And like I said, it is going to go up to $100 more. So if you feel ready, if you know that you want to create a world that YA readers are going to love, if you are tired of feeling overwhelmed or lost or confused, if you want something that is going to help you to simplify, to help you to focus, that is going to give you ideas to be more creative, more imaginative, more original, and crucially, to be able to tie your world to these key themes that are really just going to infuse it with emotion and passion that your readers are going to be able to connect with. If you already know that you want that you need that for your book, that you do want to write a book, that you do want readers to read, that you want them to love, that is going to get out there into the world and reach as many people as possible, then please, I understand if you need to think about it, but don't wait too long, because once that countdown reaches 0, like I said, the next time this course opens for enrollment, the price is going to be much higher. And I'm only offering this really low price now because, like I said, the modules aren't available just yet. They will be available on August the 14th. So because of that short time between enrolling and getting access to the modules, that is why you can get this at this lowest ever one-time discounted price. So I hope that helped. Okay, so yeah. It's now, we've been talking for quite a long time, and I think I've answered most questions. But if you have any more questions before this timer runs out, feel free to email me. Feel free to DM me on Instagram, and I will be happy to send you a voice message back to give you my answer. And you'll get a little taste of what it will be like to be in the Facebook group if you have questions that I hopefully will be able to help you with. So I'm going to sign off now. Thank you so much for joining. This has been so fun. Thank you to everybody who's been commenting, everybody who's been sharing things about themselves and about their stories. It's been so fun. And like I said, I've already seen that some people have already bought the course. I've got these little notifications that pop up. I don't know if you could see on my face at the moment they popped up, but it made me so happy. I'm so excited about this. So yeah, don't wait too long. Click on one of the buttons below. Watch the replay again if you need to. Send me questions if you have any. But I'm going to sign off now. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will speak to you soon.